Hello, hello. How are you? Just got to do a couple things here. That's me. I can't see you, so if it's possible, could you come a little this way? And if you're staring at the screen and not me, that's not going to be helpful. All right? So, can you guys come on up front? This is a lot of fun, trust me, okay? All right. While you guys are doing that, I got a quick question. How many folks here are Bitcoiners? Show of hands. Who's got Bitcoin? Got some Bitcoin? Ooh. How about altcoins? Huh? Very good. Do you guys use these? These exchanges? Use exchanges though, right? Yeah, of course you do. Yeah. We got anybody else back there that does anything with tokens? Huh? Yeah? All right. Okay, very good. Well, that's really interesting then. Hold that thought. I'll be right back. My name is Evil X. I'm anonymous, but I'm evil. Trust me on that. Okay? So let's get down to business. What I like to do is fish. You guys like fishing? Who does fishing here? Come on now. You guys love fishing. I love fishing. You know why? Because when I go fishing, I catch stuff. And the stuff that I catch, I don't have to pay taxes on. Okay? So one time I was fishing this exchange called CoinCheck, about last year. You probably heard of it, right? I was fishing and I reeled in a system administrator. And I was able to get to his private key that was stored on his laptop. Can you believe that? Storing a private key on your laptop. And you know what that private key was for? It wasn't for his wallet. You know what it was for? It was for the entire exchange. So when I got that key, I used it. I did a little transaction. And I got 535 million US in NEM. Pretty good, huh? Not bad for a day out fishing. Right? And you know what? My buddies up north, they're very good. Very good. You know what they were able to do? In 30 days, they were able to do 15,000 transactions to launder all of that NEM. So they all got it. We won. How about that? That's pretty cool, huh? Don't you think this is a much better way than your job and doing what you're doing? I think so. Now, what could have been done differently? Well, I guess the first thing is that we have all of this NEM in a single hot wallet. Is that a good idea? Is that a good idea? Sure, it's a good idea. It's a great idea. We love that because that's one place to go. It makes it so much easier. Of course, that's a good idea. Then we said, okay, we got these multi-sig wallets. Well, very good that CoinCheck didn't use those, right? Because if they had, that might have been a small problem. But fortunately, they didn't. And quite honestly, I don't think it's in their interest to do that either, because you know what? You're an exchange. You're all about liquidity. You don't want to restrict capital by having a multi-sig wallet. Come on, give me a break. And then the last one, of course, is that the private key was not protected. And you know what? That's what we're going to talk about for the rest of this afternoon. Okay, listen to these next 30 minutes. Okay, now, you're probably wondering, how did I actually pull this off? Like, you know, I fished, I got the credentials, but how did you actually get control of the system where all this stuff was residing? So let's take a look. Here's a typical setup. I don't know how many people are dealing with, Docker containers and all that kind of stuff, but if you're doing DevOps, right, you're probably dealing with Kubernetes and Docker and stuff like that. Okay, good. So this is kind of like a setup. All right, now, what I like to do, okay, is I like to go ahead and, do some social engineering, right? Do some phishing, kind of get someone's accounts. Once I have that, then it's very simple, okay? Most of these container situations are set up using Docker groups. They kind of put them all together. And in those groups, they have hard-coded the authentication credentials. So if you get those credentials and you're a member of that group, then you know what you can do? You can run this command. You could run that command. This is called a Docker permission exploit, and that is legit command. And you can run that, and you get root level, no need for a password, access to the system. And if you're able to do that, you can go through one Docker container and up through the Docker itself and then into another one, where perhaps, you're able to then do a transaction and take the Bitcoin, right? All right. That's how it's done. This is the last time I'm going to share with you, however. Okay. Now, with all of these exchanges, you know what's happening now? There's a lot more people getting involved and so forth, but the exchanges are starting to wise up. They're like, we're not going to keep all of the keys on our exchange. We're going to go ahead and we're going to get this thing called a custody service. You guys know what a custody service is? Digital asset custody. There's a few folks here, I think, that are actually building them. It's this great thing. You look after the private key, and then when you need it, you can get it. It's that simple, right? So CZ calls, hey, I need a private key to do a transaction. Boom. There you go. Okay, well, when I think about this, I have 3 or 4 different groups that I look at. The client fund manager. This is the person who's responsible, right, for, doing transactions, like setting stuff up, doing deposits, withdrawals, what have you. And they're always using, this crap, technology, x86 stuff, right? And you can totally, compromise it and so forth. Then, of course, you have the transaction approvers. Transaction approvers are the ones that, if you do a transaction, like a withdrawal transaction, these guys have to sort of, approve it, right? And they're the ones that once they all get those approvals, maybe you have 2 or 3, 3 or 4, what have you, then you're good to go. And then, of course, you've got the custodian administrator. We like to have one, right? So that's a single point of failure. That's really good. And then, of course, you got the back office guys who are then pulling all the keys, maybe the key shards, out of the deep vaults and so forth, and actually putting all of that stuff from multi-sig wallets and doing a transaction, okay? That's highly manual, takes a long time. That's usually not good for the end-user client experience, but, for me, it's great. Okay, so that's custody. Let's take a look at some of the technologies that they're used for custody. First of all, I would like to introduce you to one of my friends. Malicious actors, we have the external guys, we have the internal administrators, we like to collude, and then, of course, we got my favorite, which is the developer. Right? That's a whole attack vector that many people don't even think about. Now, we talked about the hot wallet, right? That's pretty easy to do. Okay, you're probably familiar with the paper wallets. You kind of write down on the paper. In the old days, it was just a private key, public key on a piece of paper. You have a QR code. You might be able to use it, but there's some problems with that. Even now with paper wallets, you still have some issues with respect to how the actual private key is generated. Sometimes they will use a cloud-based service. Of course, those have been compromised, so not a great idea either. Okay? So I want to focus then on hard wallets, key sharding, and hardware security modules as ways to protect private keys and perhaps keep them away from me, which I think you'll find that you can't. Okay. Very good. So hard wallets. All right? So first, you guys know what a hard wallet is, right? This is a Ledger, Nano, Treasure, that kind of stuff, right? Here's what I like about this. It has the seed in this thing called a secure element. Ooh, I'm afraid it's a secure element. Uh-oh, what am I going to do? Well, I just come over here. You see, the microprocessors that are used in these devices are really just kind of like general purpose, right? They're not really sophisticated tech. So what I can do is I can actually take control of the unsecure part, and I can change the destination address of a transaction Just like that. Isn't that cool? You know what? And there's so many other things that we can do with these little hard wallets. Well, you know, you have cases of side channel attacks. I can basically change the voltage and do a voltage glitch attack. I can do supply chain attacks. It's all kinds of really cool stuff, right? And you know, the thing is, you don't really even know because when you purchase this thing, it may come to you already compromised, right? So here's what I'd like to do. Do a little exercise. Hard wallets, I should say, in terms of generating the random number, uses generally what's called a pseudo random number generator. Pseudo random number generators are not true random number generators. They're used to create the private key, okay? And they have this concept called entropy. Entropy is the degree of randomness in a number. And you have these sites when you want to create entropy, and you kind of move around a little bit, and you can actually create a random number that you would use for your key. Okay, so what I'd like to do is demonstrate right now with you all helping me. We're going to go ahead and show you how you can create a pseudo random number. Okay? So this is a participation exercise. So you all have to stand up. Okay? Believe me, this won't hurt. Okay? If you're still sitting, then I know you're not paying attention. All right? Okay. All right, you ready? All right. Let's crank this up a little bit. Okay, you all had the step aerobics, right? Okay, let's do this. Step aerobic time. Come on now. Step aerobic, right? Okay, good. Now, shake the head a little bit. Twist the body, right? Put your hand up in the air. Oh, yeah. Let's go. Come on. This is good anyway. You had lunch, all right? Okay, now let's do a little butter churning. Okay, this is an advanced topic. Right, here we go. Butter churning. All right. Now we want to do the shopping cart, right? Shopping cart. Shopping cart, and we'll finish up with the sprinkler. Now this, my friends, is how we create a pseudo random number. Thank you very much, my lemmings. Now, here's the thing, guys. What's wrong with a pseudo random number generator? You just followed me, right? Is that a repeatable step? It is. We just did a whole set of moves. That could be done again and again and again until we understand what the real number is. That's the danger in a pseudo random number generator. These hard wallets use that technology. Good. Let me find my key. All right. So, if I don't want to use a hard wallet, why don't I go ahead and slice up the key, okay? I'll shard it. And then I will put it into the cloud. Ta-da! Well, in fact, we'll put it in multiple clouds. Isn't that a great idea? Huh? We'll keep the key in the cloud. We'll cut it up first, and then we'll keep it in the cloud. Has anybody ever seen Amazon be not available? Or Google? Huh? Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you keep your key on the cloud, the system administrators who work at the cloud have to get access to the systems, the infrastructure, the operating systems, the firmware, all of it. And if they're malicious, maybe they'll get your keys, especially if you have them in the same place. All right, now, let's say, for example, though, it's okay, and you have figured out some way to bring the keys back home again, okay? Because you need to sign a transaction, right? Now, going back to my favorite client fund manager, I have phished her machine. It's a laptop. She's bringing the keys back. They're going to be reconstituted, and we're going to sign a transaction, right? Let's take a look. Here's the first part. Here's the second part. And boom! Guess what? I got the key. Now, that was pretty cool, huh? So there's two things you need to know. First is this. When you reconstitute the key, the infrastructure you're doing that on, if it's malicious, you might lose it. Second, if the protocol that is used to actually reconstitute the key itself has a vulnerability, you lose, right? Okay, good. Now, the other thing you need to know is this, is if you don't have sufficient redundancy in your key parts, you may not be able to reconstitute the key at all. So keep that in mind, or in my case, don't. Now, the last thing is this. I don't know how much time I have, but I could talk to you about multi-party computation, MPC. There's some issues with that too. But first, the last thing I want to talk to you about here is hey Google. You know you use second factor authentication? How many people use Google Authenticator? Right? Did you know that Google told their employees not to use Google Authenticator because it's been compromised? So keep doing it. Have you heard of SIM swaps? Huh? SIM swaps? If you haven't, Google it. Ha. Okay? And that's how people can take over your account by impersonating you with the phone company. So, what you should never do is use something that's called FIDO2 compliant, device, like a YubiKey. Don't use those because that's a problem for me. What I want you to do is continue to use Google Authenticator and SMS, please. Okay? Just saying. All right. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about my good friends, the evil transaction approvers. These are the guys who are colluding. And what they do is when a transaction comes from the custodian, from the client fund manager, they approve it. But what they do essentially is maliciously approve it. Okay? They collude and they fix the logs and cover their tracks. Right? Because they can, right? Because those logs are not protected anywhere. So they can just change them. Isn't that cool? I think so. Right? And then a lot of the technology that we use for this stuff is fixed. It's M of N, meaning 2 of 3 or 3 of 4 or whatever it is. Right? So we have the people who are the approving parties of the client. They have to conform to the technology because that's all they got. Right? Well, you can make mistakes. It could be a problem. What you really want to do is just the opposite. You want to have a policy that is completely customized for the end client based upon whatever they're doing. Maybe they have a certain sequence. Maybe they have certain roles. Maybe they have out-of-band communications. Maybe they have volume limits. Maybe they have whitelisted addresses. All of these things, if they're not specified someplace, right, the chances of you actually being able to be thwarted go up. Okay? The next one is with my good friend Fred. He's the evil custodian administrator. A lot of these solutions have one administrator or one at a time. So you have opportunities for a single point of failure, right? And so if someone leaves the company who had a key, a signing key, Fred just decides, well, maybe I just won't delete that person. Who would know? I can change the logs. No problem. I mean, come on. There's no such thing as insiders, right? We've never heard of that before. Of course there is. So just like the approvers, the administrators should also have a policy, right? They should specify specifically a key management system, key rotation, key deprecation, right? Making sure that people are actually closed out of the system on a timely manner and things of that nature. Okay? So these are really key things. Now, the last thing in terms of technology, we talked about, hard wallets and we talked about key sharding. Then we've got this thing called a hardware security module. How many people have heard of this? HSM, baby. Woohoo! You know who invented this? Who invented this? Big Blue, baby. Big Blue. IBM. That's right. So, the HSM basically does 3 things. It stores keys really securely. 2, it generates keys and allows you to wrap other keys into something called secure keys because they have high entropy, because it has a true random number generator on it, right? So important stuff that we could do. In fact, what you could do then is use an HSM to actually cryptographically sign transactions or cryptographically seal other things, like applications. So quite honestly, I'm not a big fan of the HSM. It's a problem for me, okay? But you know what I do like? Is I like these vendors out there that they take the HSM that's really good, and then they screw with it. They put a wallet inside. They add a new operating system. They change the firmware. This is awesome. I couldn't be happier than that, right? Because you have the ability now to really mess things up. Okay, let's take a look. So here's the same thing, HSM. We got our secure element here with our seed, and then we got the wallet. A wallet that's running in an HSM. An HSM is supposed to be doing key management, not running wallets. Just saying. Well, here's one issue with that. Do wallets need to be upgraded? Are there blockchain forks? Do these events happen? Right? Do we have signing algorithms that change? Are there vulnerabilities that have to be addressed? Does the HSM itself have to be recertified? Does it have an operating system that needs to be upgraded or firmware that needs to be upgraded? Right? Yes, it does. And all of these things matter when you're running your wallet in an HSM, specifically availability. All right? Now, here's the other thing. Remember one of the 3 malicious actors we talked about earlier? My favorite one was the developer. Here's why. Because I can show up as the developer, right? And then I can go ahead and I can replace the wallet application with malware. How many people have heard of the Copay wallet? Bitcoin wallet. Copay, right? You probably even have it on your phone. Come on. Last year, BitPay used open source wallet software that had malware inserted in it. And guess what happened? It was deployed to Copay on all your phones. And then you got a notice eventually that says, oops, we screwed up. Please upgrade so we can get rid of the malware. So this happens. And in the case of an HSM, you could have something called a side channel attack. Okay, so basically you have the malware continually acting to go after the secure element, right? And the reason that you can do that is because there's a thing called a controller. And if this controller hasn't been upgraded within the secure boundary, it may in fact aid malware. Okay? It's happened actually. Okay, the other thing you got to think about is this. If I have put a wallet into an HSM and it's not available all the time, but I have people who need stuff out of the HSM, then I need to have availability. I need to cluster it. I need another one, right? So what does that mean? It means I take the seed from one and I put it in the other. That's cool, right? No problem. Can you think of a problem? Any problem with that? Come on. What happens if I show up and now I'm a network administrator, right? Oh no, I can tell a high entropy number. Wow, awesome, I got your key. Sorry. Okay, now, HSMs have to go through testing. Okay, well, you know what? Actually, they all don't. Only the highest certified HSM needs to go through testing. What kind of tests do they test for? I don't know, you can read them. Side channel attacks, temperature attacks, voltage attacks, chemical attacks, etc. Because what they do all day long is go after it and attack, and attack. And why is that important? Because you have these different certifications. You have this FIPS, Federal Information Processing Standard 140-2, okay, levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 1 basically is, I don't have any protection on my HSM. Level 2 says, okay, I have sealing around this thing, and if someone steals the keys, well, you'll break the seal. Oh, that's wonderful, thank you. So that means that if I show up as a system administrator, right, and I'm evil, because I am, all right, then I can go ahead and with a level 2 HSM, I can do a chemical attack, a cryogenic attack. I can freeze it, slow down the electrons, and steal the keys. By the way, this is exactly what we test for. Okay? Level 3, I have covers and doors protected, but that's it. So if I do an X-ray proton beam attack, I might in fact be able to get the key material. Okay? Level 4 says I have a 360-degree envelope around this thing. their secure element. And there's no way I can actually get to it, right, without eliciting some kind of response. So in that case, I'm out of luck. But what's interesting here is this. It responded by deleting the key. It zeroed it out. So if I have a wallet and it zeroed out my keys, is that a problem? Because the keys are my digital assets, right? My crypto. Is that a problem? So next time you ask one of your HSM vendors if they have tamper response, and that includes the destruction of the key material, ask them how they handle that situation. Okay? That's a good question. All right. By the way, anyone have any idea how many level 4 HSMs there are in the market today? Any guesses? How much? 3? 4? No. Much lower. 1. 1 little HSM. 1 level 4. Just 1. You know who makes that? Oracle. No. IBM. We invented this technology. All right. Now, let's talk about the situation where if we want to not have the wallet sitting in the HSM, what could we do? All right? What we could do is we could take the seed and we can put it in flash storage. That's crazy talk. You're going to put your keys in a storage box, right? That's crazy talk, isn't it? That's crazy. Why would you do that? It's not an HSM anymore. Ah, but it's encrypted. Okay. So then if you take that wallet application and you have a trusted execution environment, you know what that is? TEE, have you heard of that? The SDX guys, I wasn't here, but they talked about TEEs, secure enclaves. Yeah? This is basically memory you can't get into. Okay? Now, what would you do if you then took the wallet application, okay, and you put it into the TEE? That's interesting. Then, if you take that HSM secure element and you instead have a master key, you don't have the seed, you have a master key. And that master key was on a level 4 HSM. What would you be able to do at that point? Could you, if I stole that can, which is basically flash storage with the seed in it, could I get the seed? Could I get the seed? What do you think? I could open it up, I could get the seed, right? If I got the seed, would I be able to do anything with it? No, because it's encrypted, right? Multiple wraps. Now, how do I unencrypt that seed? What do I need? I need the master key that's in the HSM. Okay? So, this is interesting. This basically is saying that I could put my digital assets in regular flash storage, and then I can access them by the application that needs them in memory on demand. And it is more secure than traditional cold storage because there's no human element. And so if you have applications that are looking to have high volume activity, et cetera, it's quite useful. Okay, so let me see if I can attack this architecture. All right, it's the same setup we have here. We've gone ahead and we've added some applications. We've added the security policy that I talked to you about. We got other Linux applications and databases running in there. Okay, and this thing actually has a name. It's a secure service container is the TEE, and the Crypto Express 6S is the HSM. Okay, now let's see if I can go ahead and get this stuff out of there. Okay, here's me, system administrator, and I'm going to go ahead and try to get into this thing. And you know what? I can't. And the reason I can't is because there's no command line. How am I supposed to be a hacker if I don't have a command line? I need to type stuff, right? I need something to type. There's no command line. There's just an API. That's a real frustration for me, okay? There's no secure shell in there either. I can't do code injections. I can't do file extractions. I can't do backdoors. When I do a memory core dump, this thing's encrypted. I can't do anything with that. I don't have the key. The isolation between all these different applications running in this thing is rated ELA 5+. That means it's better than air-gapped systems because the communications are done in the firmware. And of course, it's tamper-proof when it itself gets booted up, which means you can store secrets in it. This is the only technology on Earth right now that can do this. Okay? Now, this is what the key architecture looks like. You have your master key in the HSM. Okay? It stays there, never leaves. Right? Then you have individual Docker containers, those applications, they're all encrypted using a secure key, high entropy, that's been wrapped by the master key. Then you have the secure service container itself, everything in the secure service container, another wrap. And then finally, when you're talking about storage, the final key, if you will, 4 layers. So your stuff's pretty well protected. Okay? Here's the other thing. How much stuff can you put into this blue box? Anybody have an idea? How big is this? 16 terabytes? Good answer. That's pretty big. You can do a lot in 16 terabytes. As a matter of fact, the IBM blockchain platform on the IBM cloud runs in this. How many times has that been hacked? Okay, now, what else could we, if we didn't have this, what could we have? Well, we could say the next best thing. That's SGX. But the problem here is that it's only 128 megabytes. So there's not much I can put in there. And I can't store secrets in it. And it's available, and there's side channel attacks eventually, right? Because not everything is protected, right? Okay. Now, here's the last thing. Okay, well, actually not totally last, but pretty close. If my keys get zeroed out, right? Because somebody was playing around with my HSM, I need a backup, right? And then here I've got digital assets potentially in memory, and I've got digital assets in storage, in flash storage, regular flash storage, nothing special. So I'm able to replicate that stuff using existing technology, stuff that would be disfamiliar to any administrator, okay? I can basically, through the cloud, through a cloud object store, I can take the SSC and put it into backup site, and I can do through storage replication the same. Okay, but here's what I haven't solved yet. If I don't want the key to leave the HSM ever, how do I back it up? I'm not backing that key up. I'm not taking that key out of the HSM. How do I do that? What is the trick? The trick is something called a trusted key entry. And what we do is one time only, we have a key ceremony. Do you remember like those movies where like the rockets are going to take off and you've got these guys with the little keys and they come together like a key ceremony to launch the rockets and they go, what? And then like all the rockets take off? Well, this is similar. You have individual smart cards that are rated ALA 7+, and you have a key ceremony. And the key ceremony has the master key generated in each of the HSMs. And of course, you always have more than one. So instead of like importing or exporting, they just generate it simultaneously, okay? In a very secure communications protocol. This has been in existence for 25, 30 years. Never been hacked. Okay, so that's how we do it. The keys never leave the HSM, and they're never exported or imported. Now, here's the last part. If you have a trusted execution environment that's 16 terabytes, and you're running all your stuff in it, right? How do you prevent developers who are highly privileged to deploy stuff into that in fact is malware? How do you do that? How do you do that? You have DevOps processes. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about how do I know that my developers are trustworthy? How about my administrators or operators? How can you protect? So I'm about to show you how you do it. So it starts off very simple. I have a developer, okay, and they are just going to go ahead and put their code into Git, right? And then here's the cool thing. What we do from there is we take the build out of source code and we build it in that secure service container environment. And then we sign it and we create a manifest. Now, why is that important? Because if you are trying to change the build into something that has malware in it, You need a key to do that. But the key is inside the secure service container, which you don't have access to. And if you try to use a different key with a different malware build, it doesn't matter because only the one that's in there is the one that's going to be used to make the build. And it's, of course, being built out of Docker Content Trust, which is another whole trusted service. Okay, here's the thing, though. If you're a custodian, is this good enough? Okay, let me ask you something. Do you trust the development team of all these custodians who are holding your assets? You don't even know who they are, right? They could be anybody. They could be colluding. They could even be, somehow colluding with this setup. You need more than this. You need more trust. So what we do is we actually get a third-party auditor, okay? A third-party auditor, and they will do their own software attestation. And they'll take the manifest that's in the secure service container and make sure that all the source code that was involved in that build, in fact, are the same that was used in that build, right? They may even do penetration testing. They may do, code reviews, whatever is needed. They have their own sign-offs. Once those keys are happening, then you have this endorsement that just checks everything off, and then it automatically pulls the build from Docker Content Trust and deploys it without any human interference. So you've just taken out all these attack vectors, okay? And it's all because of this secure service container technology and the fact that the keys, once in there, cannot be tampered with. Okay? It's pretty cool, huh? Now, I just want to close on something. This is like the bonus material. I'm probably over on my time. But, I work for IBM, if you didn't know. You've heard of quantum, right? Now, we have scientists at IBM that do a bunch of stuff. We have scientists building the world's largest quantum computers. You've probably heard of it. If you haven't heard, we have one that's like 30, 40 qubits right now. Do you know how many qubits are needed for quantum processing in order to steal your Bitcoin? About 120. Not too far away, is it? What does this slide say? By 2026, it's a 15% chance that you lose your Bitcoin. And that goes up by the end of the decade to almost 50%. And why is that? Because the encryption used by your Bitcoin is this RSA stuff here. Okay, the ECC stuff. And with quantum, that basically disappears. And think about the assumptions that went into this in the first place. Cracking just a 128 AES key was supposed to take the life of the universe. Now that could be done in a matter of hours. Well, maybe not today, but maybe by 2026, right? Are you guys concerned about this at all? Probably talk to some quantum guys. Well, here's the thing, because IBM is building all this stuff, we are also building the stuff to resist it, okay? So our Crystals project our scientists have submitted a quantum-resistant lattice curves to NIST, and these have been down selected to 9. There's nine of us right now. That will become a standard, okay? And so you can go read about this. And basically, the lattice curves are the only ones that can be trusted to actually protect the digital signatures, the communications, and the key exchanges, okay? The technology that I just described to you earlier with the secure service container and the HSM is called Linux One. It is a open source Linux server. It runs all varieties of Linux. There's nothing special about it, except this, that by the end of this year, don't tell anybody I said this, the end of this year, it's going to be quantum resistant. That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's all I got for you. Thank you very much. My name is Peter DeMeo with IBM. I hope you enjoyed the show.